welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're back just doing a one-to-one chat. This time we're talking about the state of the market. Now, I normally do this once a year, and I did the last one in December the 18th, 2021, and we're still in towards the end of August now, so I'm a little bit early, but I think things are about to shift quite a lot, but we'll come on to that later on in the show.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what do you see?
Iceberg, right ahead!
Iceberg, right ahead!
On the starboard!
Now, if you haven't seen any of these videos before, I recommend going and checking one out. But what I've done is I've gone back and I've watched them myself, and I got the data out of that to bring into this video to try and make it make a bit more sense. So what I normally do in these videos is I go through, I have like marker cars from different manufacturers, like the sort of flagship cars for Tamiya, Schumacher and that kind of stuff, look at all the current prices and then map to see how they trend, which then gives us a bit of a clearer picture of what's going on with prices in the market. Then also I predict some that are going to go up and some are going to go down, just for a bit of fun really, and then what I think is coming over the following year. Now, the last time obviously was December, and I have some predictions, but I think things are speeding up, so I thought now's a good time to do it. Also, there's some releases that are coming that are quite interesting to talk about, and there's a couple of cars in the dynamics with re-releases and things like that, which are quite interesting. So I've done this video this is the second time I've done this video, as I forgot to turn the audio off. So we'll try and hopefully that means this video is going to be better, because I've already been through this once already. Right, so we kick off with Tamiya. So the flagship for Tamiya is obviously the Blazing Blazer. So I looked at prices in September 2020 and then 2021 and then today as well. So the Blazing Blazer used to be about £1,500 in 2020. And then 2021, I looked at prices again and they were roughly the same. Now today I went and had a look, and prices have definitely pulled back a little bit. You're looking at 1,200 to 1,500. So that's only a marginal pullback, but there is some other things that play into that, like new in box. There is no new in box kits out at the moment, so I can't get that data. Obviously, the other problem that I have, especially for doing this kind of stuff, is I don't have many data points. There's not like there was 300 Blazing Blazers sold. So also a big part of that is the condition. Condition plays a huge part. Also, new in box prices are different to built prices, but I try to go and look at it from a higher level, not just use an outlier or something like that. But there's definitely been a bit of a pullback. You can actually, currently at the moment, there's been a big chunk of sold Blazing Blazers that have been built in varying degrees of quality, but overall you're looking at 1,200 to 1,500, which is definitely a bit of a pullback compared to previous years, but not crazy amounts. Then we got the Falcon is another one. This hasn't been re-released at all. So back in September 2020, a new in-box kit sold for £702. Then a new in-box kit in 2021 sold for £535. I went and had a look now, and you can actually pick up a good one. Falcons, there seems to have been a lot more of them. There's been a whole raft of sold built kits. Obviously all my prices are based on sold, they're not on what people are asking, because some people ask £1,000. That doesn't mean that's what it's going to sell for, so I always refer to sold prices to get my sort of overview. So there's been a raft of sold Falcons recently. There's about 8 or 9, which is really good to get a kind of idea of the current prices and the variation in quality. And your good one sold for £122, which is a total bargain. It didn't look like it had done much work at all and didn't need hardly any restoration. So that means that prices have definitely pulled back on the Falcon quite a bit, going on that group of sold units, but there's no new in-box ones, so I couldn't say what a new in-box one would sell for. I would probably think it would be roughly the same, around the 535 to 600 price. I think the 702 that sold in 2020 was quite an expensive one. Next is the Porsche 959. This one is a really fascinating one to follow. Prices have been on the increase quite a lot recently over the last couple of years. So 2020, a new inbox one will cost you £720, which seems very cheap. In 2021, they're about £1,000, if not slightly more than that. Well, I went and had a look today, and you're looking at between £1,000 and £1,200 for a new inbox one. But one thing I did notice, there is a lot of built ones that have been up for sale and sold. And those prices are around the £500 mark. And you can get some pretty good quality ones for £500. So I was quite surprised at that. That was very different to what I saw last year when there wasn't that many about, or they were very rough. So there is, I think people are slowly restoring a lot of these 959s to different levels. But you can pick up quite a good one. So I'd say that's a bit of a pullback. Compared to what we saw last year, you were paying about the same money, but you're getting quite ropey, whereas now I think you're getting a bit more for your money. And then there was the Celica. I saw a really good one sold for like 520 quid, which was a total bargain. So, yeah, there we go. Bit of a pullback, bit of a trend to what we're starting to see. Then we go on to things like decals. Now, this is another one. The reason I have this in, again, it's a little bit different because they are kind of a consumable. Obviously, some people do collect decals, but a lot of people buy them to restore their vintage stuff. So decal prices went from about £45 in the UK, and then they pushed up really far. They went in 2020 to like £70, which I was blown away when they were 45, but they really took a big push up. And then they've been up in the 70s and 80s. 2021 they were the same. I had a look now, and they've come back down a little bit. I saw some really good vintage decals, ones that you just can't get. Some Astutes, they sold for 50 to 60. But they seem to be more around the 50 to 60 than the 70s and 80s. Obviously, they do vary, but if you look at the sold prices, overall, you're seeing a small pullback, which is a good thing. It's a strange one because obviously there's less and less of them all the time. But then there is the aftermarket copies and stuff that you can buy, which I think has capped the total price people are willing to pay. Unless you are a total die-hard original kind of restorer, that you're going to spend £80-90, because the minute you cut them out and put them on your body, you obviously are going to lose that money. You make your car more desirable because it's restored back to, if it's an original body and original decals, it is the best you can get it, but it's not going to cover the extra price. If you bought an original body set, it's going to cost you 150, 160 quid. If you buy an aftermarket body and decals, it's going to cost you, what, 45 quid. So the difference once you've built it up is probably not that much. But obviously some people really want the correct decals. Now obviously that will depend. Some decals are very easy to copy, others are really difficult if there's any blending. Also if the decals are white, a lot of the rally cars and stuff, the text is in white, so when you put it on the car you can see through it, so it's never as good as the original decals, so they obviously demand a little bit more money. Then we move over to Kyosho, which is really interesting. Because we got the Optima Mid. Now back into 2020 I looked up the Kyosho Optima Mid Customs. They were £520, and in 2021 you're looking at £510 to £600. Well, I had a look today and you're looking at £300, and there was a few of them, it wasn't just one outlier. So they've definitely pulled back. So why do I think they pulled back? Well, obviously we've got the RERE Mid, and it's not much of a jump to assume that they're going to bring out the long wheelbase version of the Mid next. Obviously the Mid that came out was the Mid with the turbo decals, so you could do those. So it kind of makes sense that if they're going to do another one, which I'm pretty sure they will because it's been a massive success for them, that they'll jump to a long wheelbase one. So that could be the Optima Mid Custom or a different variant of that. I don't know whether it'll be the Toms, we don't know, but it's definitely going to be a long wheelbase one. So that would knock down prices for sure. I also then had some back data for the turbo, which is interesting because obviously the re-release had the turbo decals in it. £300 to £500 was what it would cost you for a turbo mid. If you go back to 2020, 2021, you're looking at £400. So it hasn't changed that much at all. It's just condition. Well, I looked today and they're £300 to £400, depending on condition. So a pullback again. So we're starting to see a trend of a slight downward trend across the board. Obviously, there's fluctuations depending on quality and what features and functions and what you get with it. Do you get a box manual, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely had an impact, the re-release. But I think the re-release for Kyosho has been a big success. I think it was a brilliant one that they did. And obviously they did some extra bits and pieces, like you can run brushless because they've upgraded it. You can set the tensioner on the belt, which is new. So they've definitely put new stuff into it, which is definitely the way to go. If you're going to re-release a kit, just make it a little bit better, fix any problems, which is what they do. So that's a definite thumbs up for Kyosho. But it has had a knock-on effect on some of their vintage prices. Schumacher. So the Schumacher, the cars that I looked at back in the day was the Boss Cat, the Cat 2000. So the Boss Cat in 2020, you're looking around the £300 mark. Then a year later, £350 to £370. We had a bit of a boom. 2021 was definitely a boom year. Now you're looking at £250 to £300, but there is zero for sale right now. So these are sold. Sold prices are £250 to £300, but there's none right now. So I can't tell you what someone's offering on them. Then if you look at the Cat 2000 in 2020, it was £281. Then on 2021, they jumped to £350 to £400. Well, looking today, you're looking at £260 to £450 they sold for. So again, the Schumacher cars have pulled back a little bit. Partly there could be to do that we are getting a new vintage four-wheel drive from Schumacher Racing. That's confirmed. We know we got the Cougar, which was the next version of the Top Cat, and we're due a four-wheel drive car. So that could easily be a Boss Cat or a Cat 2000. We honestly don't know yet. So maybe that's playing into people's mind of, do I buy one of those at a higher price? And then if the RERE comes out, it's going to knock the price down. Maybe, maybe not. But we should, in the next couple of months, find out what that four-wheel drive release from Schumacher is going to be. I also now have gone and looked at the XLS and the Top Cat. I didn't previously in 2020 and 2021, but I've actually went back and looked at what the kits was selling for. So in 2021, you could get a Cat XLS for £233 new in box. Today, I went and had a look, and they are between 340 built to 500 new in box. So they have pushed up quite a lot from 233 to almost £500. I also went and looked at the Top Cat, and that was £303 to £330 new in box. As of today, you're looking at £235 for a good runner and £235 for a new in box to £300. So what's the difference? Why is the Top Cat not pushed up as much as the XLS? Well, we had the Cougar, like I said, so I think the Cougar has dampened down the Top Cat market, even though it was discontinued. I think because they're very similar, and if anything, if you're going to go racing, you're going to go for a Cougar over a Top Cat because the front end is just better for actual racing and dialing them in, whereas the Top Cat is just better looking, personally. So I think that's dampened down the price a little bit, but the XLS continues to rocket because I guess they're not bringing them out anymore. There's no more re-releases, so everyone's very sure that they are what they are and there's not going to be another round of them, so they're demanding a premium. You know, that's kind of my guesstimation of it. But you know, getting a new inbuilt for 500 or getting a built one for 340, personally, get the built one. If it's built well, get the built one. It's less hassle. Unless you're going to put lots of options on it, then you're better off buying a kit, because dismantling and rebuilding them, they're not the most fun in the world to do. Anyway, there we go. So let's now move over to Team Associated. So I looked back at the RC10 Gold Pan, the Graphite, the Wellcar, and the RERE Gold Pan, B2s and B3s. So the RC10s back in 2020 were about £395, you know, pretty decent ones. Currently, they're selling for 400, so there hasn't been much of a change at all across 2020, 21 and 22 right now. So I went and had a look at the sold prices in 2022 for the World Car RC10, and yes, prices are still really strong, pretty much what I paid, but new in box are demanding more and more. Yeah, they're getting very expensive, and some of the vintage ones are pushing right up to the 900 odd pound. So yeah, super expensive. I also went and had a look at the RERE RC10 Gold Pan, and again, they're demanding big money. So when we look at that, the team associated seem to be doing rather well versus some of the others like Tamiya, for instance. But let's now look at the whole market. Well, I think we can pretty much agree that there is a trend with a start of a pullback after we've kind of rode the peak. Obviously, like I just said with team associated, they seem to have not pulled back just yet. But looking at the market, and this is why I did this video, is there is a lot of outside factors that are really going to be influencing the RC market in the next year or so, especially the vintage stuff. And that is, we touched on it before of my predictions from last year, and that was going to be the inflation and fuel and food, but now it's got even worse. Inflation is really, really high. Food prices have rocketed, and in the UK especially, what it costs to put fuel in our cars has gone bonkers. Now the push upwards to more expensive is obviously from inflation as assets go up in price, but being that RC and vintage RC especially is a hobby and is fun and not a necessity, it's going to be one of the first things that gets hit. And I'm pretty sure, looking at how expensive everything's getting, and especially in the UK in October, we're going to see energy prices going up even more, that people are going to stop buying. Now, obviously, it will then swap to people who are trying to sell because they need the money versus people that are going to buy. So I personally think we, in the next year, are going to see quite a strong pullback. Now, this will all be influenced with what's going on with the war and energy companies demanding more and more money for all this energy and fuel that we're using. So I think it's going to hurt the market a lot. Now, we're starting to see it already in some aspects, as well as other things like watches and other high items that are more luxury things. So it's not looking too good. So if you're thinking about selling your RCs, well, if you're thinking about selling them because you need the money, that's a kind of a classic sign that the market is going to pull back, right? So if you're thinking of selling your cars, I would suggest you do it earlier rather than later, as I can't see them continually to sell for more and more, or even for what they are at the moment. What do you think? Comment below, let me know. So my prediction is it's going to be a bit doom and gloom over the next year, and it will all be dependent on how bad the energy prices and food prices get. But honestly, I can't really see them getting any worse. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe. Comment below. Do you agree, disagree, or do you think I'm talking total rubbish? Or do you think we're going to see a massive downturn? See you soon. Bye-bye.